Welcome to the 3 Knockdown Rule. Starring Mario Lopez and Steve Kim. Presented by Hustler Casino.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 3 Knockdown Rule is in effect, brought to you by Hustler Casino. I'm Steve Kim, joined by Mario, the Mexican Monster, Lopez.
See what moniker you were going to give me. How you doing, Kimster? You're looking good. Shout out to Smoking Tim Frazier and
Tino on the edits, the bout sheet for this show. Benavidez, Morell, we give a full review. We also take a look at the undercard. We have Ask Mario and Final Flurries. But we want to let you know this podcast is sponsored by Hustler Casino. Open 24/7 and located just 15 minutes from downtown LA. If you love poker, then head over to Hustler Casino for the new Cash is King Poker Cash drawings happening every Monday. They're giving away a whopping $1,000 in cash every other hour from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. Play at Hustler Casino, located just 15 minutes from downtown LA if you want to win big.
Round one.
All right, we begin round number one this past Saturday night from the T-Mobile Arena in Viva Las Vegas on Prime. And still, the WBC interim light heavyweight champion of the world, David Benavidez, pounds out a 12-round decision in a decisive fashion over David Morell. Your scores 118-108 and 115-111 twice. Mario, a tip of the cap to Nolan Richardson. And I'm going to paraphrase it. David Benavidez is 36 minutes of hell.
Well, Arkansas reference right
Go
there.
Razorbacks.
You went old school.
Shout out to Corliss Williamson.
Wow.
Todd Day, Lee Mayberry.
90s, right?
90s.
Yeah,
94
see,
national champions.
I remember that.
Scotty Thurman
Look
from
at
the
that.
corner. Look at
not
that.
bad, not bad. Listen, I was in Palm Springs for a national cheerleading competition. More on that later. So I saw the fight. It ended just perfectly, right in time for the main event. I really liked the fight. I called you afterwards.
Yeah.
I really liked the fight for many reasons. Number one, Benavidez, who I'm a huge fan of, and who is not on these mythical pound for pound lists, but if there was a list as far as most entertaining fighter,
Top
fighters,
3 or 4.
he's in the top 3. I think for sure Mount Rushmore.
Yes.
For sure Mount Rushmore. He is in the mythical top entertaining fighters that you do not want to miss, because my guy, just like you said, is 36 minutes of hell. He's got that snowball effect. He lets his punches go. He even started a little quicker this time, because most of the time the guys maybe steal a few rounds. He's timing you out. He's got underrated defense with his high guard. I know sometimes he gets a little too comfortable dropping his hands because his hands are so fast, but he gauges that distance, figures out your timing, and starts putting those beautiful combinations together. And for a guy, he fights sort of against his body type because he's long. He loves to be on the inside. I love those uppercuts where he throws in those beautiful angles, and he was going to the body relentlessly from round 1 and continued until round 12. He's not necessarily going to take you out of there with one shot, especially at this weight class, but he does break you down, and if it doesn't take you out eventually, I think just psychologically, emotionally beats you. And there was no question that the momentum started to go in his favor. What made the fight really interesting to me is Morell. Props to him. I know he only had his 11 fights, but such a vast amateur pedigree and a fundamentally sound guy. Strong, fast, southpaw, powerful, heavy hands. Herb Benavidez in the 4th round caught him with that right hook. Ironically, Benavidez came back and didn't and actually closed the round, but then hurt him again at the end of the 11th. I know it was a late punch. Dropped him technically. I seeing it again, it was an arm punch. It looked more of a slip, being off balance, but I guess technically it was still a drop. But that's what made it interesting. Morell was dangerous, and he was pretty game in there. I wish he would have started punching a little more in between those combination shots, but it kept you on the edge and interested because he as opposed to Benavidez, does have that one-punch knockout power, and he did buzz him a couple times. So it was a really good showing, I thought, for both fighters. I think Morell's going to be a better fighter because of it, and I think Benavidez just cemented himself as a real player there, and I'm really excited about the fight leading up to the potential showdown after Bivol and Beterbiev, which I know we're going to get into a little bit later.
David Morell. I think he had to go either full Rigondo or understand you have to do more with your hands and keep him up on that high guard, because when it comes to Benavidez, if you want to catch and counter, the problem is you have to weather a storm. And at times he got shelled.
You're exactly right. Not to interrupt, but the problem in trying to do what you're saying is the combinations don't cut. There's no rhythm to him. He'll go jab, jab, body, uppercut, jab, jab, body, body, hook. Like he mixes it up so well, you can't, so he's got you like this, and you can't time. So it's very, even for a seasoned guy like Morell, it's hard to time and counter.
There were times when Benavidez is doing his continual forward march, and I'm thinking to myself, David, you got to be first. And I'm talking about Morell. Because if you're going to wait to catch and counter, you're going to be catching a lot. And I keep hearing that David Benavidez is not a hard hitter. Look, folks, he may not be Bob Foster or Michael Moore at 75. He hits hard enough that you're not just walking through it.
No, hell no. Exactly. That's exactly right. He's not a one-hitter quitter, but it's very respectful.
He may not knock you out clean with one shot, but he will leave you with a constant headache and bumps and bruises all over. That was a real fight. And for David Morell, I guarantee you he'll be better from this. I did not think a guy, even with the amateur pedigree of Morell, with just 11 fights, was seasoned enough, because when you're dealing with Benavidez, it's not just a steady rainstorm. It is a monsoon. It is a torrent of leather. And I felt as though he was been better off stinking out the joint early, trying to steal some early rounds, or just saying, you know what, I got to be first here. If I have the superior one-punch power, and I'm not a natural counterpuncher, because that's what was shown, I have to find ways. And once it was 3-1 in my book after 4 rounds, I said, it's going to be tough for Morell.
I thought after that 4th round, when he caught him with that counter, ironically, right hook, I said, okay, he's going to let his hands go a little bit more. He knows he can buzz them, and that wasn't the case. I don't know if he continued just to be a little bit more measured because maybe he thought he could time them. He should have figured out quickly after that he couldn't. But yeah, at the same time, when you have, and the reason I thought it might be competitive because of that, not only that pedigree, but he's got some physical attributes. He's strong, really heavy hands. He's fast. He's athletic. He's southpaw. I wish he would have shown, but easier said than done. He would have let his hands go.
And again, I've seen every single one of Morell's fights. He got hit more in 2 rounds than he got hit in the previous 11.
Because I think guys feel that power and they're like, whoa, they're intimidated, and then they go into his game. Benavidez was making him fight his fight.
Benavidez not only puts physical pressure, it's mental pressure. Because look, he got stunned, it happens, but he just keeps coming on. He has a way of suffocating you, and he turns that 20-by-20 ring into, guess what, kids, a phone booth. It really is a phone booth battle, and he shrinks the ring on you.
What's that?
Yeah, exactly. And you're making collect calls. And time again, David Benavidez kept coming in waves. And even with that knockdown, I thought it was more of a shoulder shot. He got knocked off balance. I never thought he was really hurt. No. Ironically, David Benavidez was actually hitting late, and then it was Morell that finished off that late exchange, and I thought he was more hurt than he was even in the 4th round.
So did I. Yeah. That was bad. I thought the 12 was going to get injured. That's what made the fight interesting. Yeah. I knew he could buzz him, and he was wobbled back to that thing, because I thought Morell was going to go for broke in that 12th round, but throughout that whole fight, I saw that potential sort of happening if he was able to connect clean.
Benavidez is one of these guys, I know certain people do not want to give him credit. They will talk a lot about his deficiencies, but you know what? His offense is his defense.
Right.
And the bottom line is this. When you pay for a David Benavidez fight, you always come away thinking one thing. That was a hell of a fight.
Like I said,
that was a hell of a fight.
Mount Rushmore of entertaining fighters. You mentioned deficiencies. I don't see too many. I think his defense is actually pretty good with his high guard. He parried a lot of those punches. He didn't as active, and Mario Randall, I think, was just hyping up the fight a little bit. I didn't see him take too many clean shots.
I didn't either.
For Morell, other than those counters, he really didn't. He's so composed in there.
There's a little bit of a Julio Cesar Chavez-like feel to his defense. He's right in front of you. You're going to touch him here and there. You're not going to touch him clean over and over again. And look, people get hurt. I still think David Benavidez catches pretty well. Now, how that would translate to Artur Beterbiev or the boxing of Dimitri Bivol, that remains to be seen. But David Benavidez, 30-0. Goes the distance for one of the few times, and for David Morell, he falls to 11-1. Taking a look at this undercard, the new WBC featherweight titleist Stephen Fulton now is a 2-division champion. 12-round decision over Brandon Figueroa. Your scores, 116, 112 twice, 117, 111. Mario, what I saw in this fight is that Fulton was very sharp, looked much better than he did against Carlos Castro. Well, Brandon Figueroa, I wonder, did he die on the vine? He looked like a guy moving underwater.
Yeah, it was interesting. Well, first of all, shout out to being the first champion to wear jorts and Timbs in the ring. Never seen that look before. My guy took it, speaking of the 90s.
Did he have a FUBU corner jacket on, too?
He should, might as
Aniche,
well. He was
Pelly-Pel.
He was trending because of that. It was weird because Figueroa was the aggressor, was still pressing forward through the whole fight. But yeah, it looked like he was swimming underwater. And Fulton was a lot more composed, answering with counter shots, and was beating him to the punch a lot. Figueroa did have little moments, but it looked like he was pushing a lot of his punches as opposed to snapping them.
They look limp and listless.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it was a weight cut. I don't know what it was, but it's like he was there, but he wasn't.
One guy could see openings and capitalize. The other guy could not.
Right.
And the crowd was booing, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Stephen Fulton's actually looking good. To me, maybe the crowd, which was pro-Mexican, they didn't like the result, but I thought one guy was really good. The other guy really looked like a guy that died on the vine, and I've heard the word shot. We shall see. I tell you what was the best fight of the night, and I think everyone knew it coming into this weekend. Isak Pitbull Cruz holds on late with a tough 10-round decision over Angel Fierro. That was old school Mexican chingazos. Orale.
Again, talk about entertainment value. You got guys like Cepeda, Pitbull, Benavidez. Those are the guys you do not want to miss. You know you're going to get your money's worth. And it looked like he got a little bit back into the groove.
Yeah.
Per his last
Well,
fight.
this style fit much better than Rayo Valenzuela. Tall, angular southpaw that was going to box and move. Fierro fit the bill. Now you can argue maybe he's not really a 140-pounder. Isak Cruz is one of these guys. I don't think the record matters. He is a little fire hydrant with heavy hands.
Yeah.
And I do think he won the majority of the early rounds. I don't think Fierro won every single one from 6 to 10. I do think the decision was fair. I know some people thought Fierro won. I happen to disagree.
I agree with you.
Also on that card, middleweight Jesus Ramos takes care of Jason Rosario in 8. All right, and we come back. More of the 3 Knockdown Rule brought to you by Hustler Casino.
Catch it streaming live right on YouTube.
Welcome to the big leagues, kid.
$1.2 million.
And I'm losing in this fucking game. What the fuck?
There's a 400K flip. If I win by way, you get 10 grand. For my fans.
Wow. All in a call.
I'm not fucking leaving.
Raise it up.
All right, we're back on the 3 Knockdown Rule brought to you by Hustler Casino. Ladies and gentlemen, are you looking to get involved with the 3 Knockdown Rule and sponsor our show? We have some spots available. Please email info@boxbid.io. Once again, that's info@boxbid.io. Boxbid is an online platform that helps professional boxers connect with their fans by providing exclusive Fight Week merchandise, memorabilia, and sponsorships. You can even buy a shout-out on Boxbid. Boxbid.io handles our sponsorship, and we proudly are working with boxbid.io. All right, moving on to the Ask Mario portion of this program, we go on to one of our good friends, Alex, the Filthy Casual. Does years of being ducked by Canelo now give David Benavidez every right to duck Beterbiev or Bivol for undisputed at 75? Oh, I hate that whataboutism. Hate that.
I don't like whataboutism either. And look, Benavidez likes to fight. And I think if he fights the winner of Bivol Beterbiev, which Turki Al-Sheikh really wants to make happen, and I think he'll get paid for his efforts, and somehow is victorious, and Canelo is victorious against Crawford, which I believe he will be, then
The pressure's on.
Then we have, no pun intended or pun intended, monster fight
Yeah.
at 175 that I actually think Canelo would take at that point. I do, because I think the box office would be huge, and I think Turkey would make him an offer he couldn't refuse.
Yeah, and the public pressure would be on at that point.
There's a lot. That's a big ask, though. I feel much more comfortable Canelo over Crawford as opposed to Benavidez over the winner of Beterbiev. That's a big ask. And they're no David Morell. That's a whole nother level.
The other thing is Benavidez.
Don't you agree?
Yeah, I do. And on Saturday night, Benavidez said, well, I'm a Vegas fighter. I should stay here. And I'm like, bro, you didn't sell out T-Mobile. They actually gave away tickets. They didn't open up the second level.
Well, what does that mean?
That means he's not going over to Saudi Arabia, probably.
He don't like money?
Well, obviously, not in this situation. He does not. And some people. One thing that was interesting. I saw a photo that was tweeted out by a good friend of ours, Boxing BBQ. Great boxing account, goes to a lot of the fights. Good boxing fan, very knowledgeable. He put up a picture of Benavidez. He was really banged up. He had cuts over both eyes. I didn't realize that. That actually took a toll on both men.
One of them was a headbutt, I believe, unintentional. But I believe so, because he didn't look it after the fight, but then afterwards. Yeah, well, Morell was throwing too, dude, when he was in there. He did land some shots. I'm curious how Morell felt afterwards with the body shots. He went to the body a lot.
Yes, he did. Absolutely. Here's one from Hamed Boxing. If David Benavidez does actually fight the winner of Beterbiev Bivol and Benavidez loses, does a Benavidez versus Canelo fight still interest you guys, or does it depend on what happens in the Canelo versus Crawford fight? A lot of moving parts there.
Look, if I honestly, I feel pretty comfortable with the Canelo Crawford fight. I know anything could happen, but I've discussed, my feelings on that. The big gamble is the Benavidez versus the winner of Bivol and Beterbiev, because regardless of who comes out of that one, not only is it a very dangerous fight, that he's the underdog in that fight. I feel he is. Do you agree?
Yeah, but I'd still like to see it, though. Look, if we want to make boxing...
No, I want to see that. I'm
regardless
talking
of the result, though. That's all I'm saying.
Right. Oh, wait, what do you still want to see?
Any of the fights.
Benavidez Canelo, you mean?
Let's say he
No, of
loses.
course I'd want to see it, but even if he loses, it does take away...
What's the beauty of the UFC?
The mentality is
right.
different, though.
Well,
I hope the mentality...
Then let's start here, then.
I agree. I agree. But what I'm saying is, it will... Maybe you're going from...
it'll change the dynamic.
That's what I'm saying. It'll change the dynamic.
Because of the public. We've been so conditioned that every fight has to be winner moves on, the loser has to go to the back of the line. It wasn't always this way. If you look at the 1970s era of the heavyweights, a lot of guys lost and still got other big fights, and then were able to win that fight, and they circle back.
What about the most successful fight with Pacquiao and Mayweather? Pacquiao had already lost to Marquez.
Yeah.
When that had happened, too.
So when I look at this situation... The problem that I've had with boxing the last 20 to 25 years with all the promotional rivalries, the network wars, is that we've had too many bits of missing history where fights did not happen. And you can argue it all began with Lennox Lewis against Riddick Bowe. They never fought.
I know. That was unfortunate.
And that's a damn shame.
Well, another situation that's happening right now in the heavyweight division is Joshua Fury. They both
Joshua Wilder. There's a couple of them.
There's a couple of them right there, and I'd still like to see them. So...
Here's one from Kepasa. How can a contender, and I believe he means Benavidez, make demands to the undisputed champion? And I think he's talking about the winner of February 22nd. This is where Benavidez has a point. In America, I'm the bigger commercial draw. He still drew over 10,000. I don't know what the pay-per-view numbers did, but to the general or casual boxing fan in America, as good as Beterbiev and Bivol are, there's a reason why they're in Saudi Arabia, and one guy is fighting in Las Vegas. That I do not disagree with Benavidez on.
Yes, that is true. However, the X factor here is his excellency.
And the money.
Right. If he wants that fight, it doesn't matter what you want. If you're offered $50 million.
Big bag, take small bag.
Right.
Right.
Right?
Right. And as Larry Merchant once said, Steve, they go where the money is. Why has that suddenly changed? Yeah. Right? Here's one from Cam. Oh, wow. What round does Canelo make Benavidez quit? Ooh.
Did anything you saw this past weekend make you feel more comfortable with Canelo against Benavidez? Here's the thing.
Yes.
Here's the thing. Canelo, to me, I always thought was a good matchup for Benavidez. Benavidez stands right in front of you. Comes at you. Yes, he has those fast hands, but Canelo has those fast counters. That body's there to be hit too. And the counters that Morell caught him with, and they were only a couple, buzzed him. I guarantee you Canelo hits just as hard. And if that body's there right in front, a guy that's right in front of you, a la Munguia, we saw what happened. I actually think Canelo, I don't think he's necessarily ducking Benavidez. I really don't, because I think that style is tailor-made for him. Yes, it's difficult. He's a great opponent. He's dangerous. But I actually think we're not talking Bivol. quick on his feet.
In and out.
In and out.
darting.
I actually, standing right in front of you, that
Fastballs
body.
down the middle of the plate.
I think so. Am I the only one thinking? Am I crazy to think that?
As Willie Savannah, God rest his soul, once said about Joel Diaz in a certain fight, he says, now, Kim, we ain't a ducking and a dodging, but we're a hemming and a hawing. In other words, like, we'll take the fight, but we're not running towards it yet.
Right.
Here's the difference with Canelo. His poise inside the pocket,
right,
where he stays in the eye in the center of the storm.
Second to none.
There are certain things that I saw where Benavidez has a kind of a wide frame. His punches come away from his chin, kind of around the corner. As Teddy Atlas says, he leaves fat. He leaves openings. There is a precision to Canelo that I just said, ooh, you know, if he was doing that with Canelo, that left hook would be timed, because his timing, his ability to slip, block and counter, slip, roll counter, all of that stuff is upper body movement.
His style, it seems tailor-made for Canelo. And Kim, you're talking about just hooks to the body.
Yes.
That hook to the liver right there?
And Canelo, to me, is a solid puncher.
Hell yeah.
He may not be Bob Foster, but it ain't pillow-fisted either. He can hurt a guy, and he hits you with blind shots. I mean, think about when he banged out Berlanga, when he knocked him down. That was a quick left hook.
That was a big Berlanga, 200 pounds, too.
So, look, do I think that there are openings that would be there that were not capitalized on by Morell that would absolutely be taken advantage of by Canelo? C. Here's one from Earthwheel, 1990. Do British fighters take more risk and fight tougher competition than U.S. fighters? I'm thinking about Joshua, Fury, Joyce, Chisora, Dubois, and White would basically fight anyone. Throw in Froch, Khan, Frampton, and Brooke going up to 160 to fight Triple G. What's a good point?
It sure seems that
Ooh,
way. I think
wow.
they feel to really make noise out here in the States, they need to. And God bless them for it, because a lot of them have been rewarded because of that. But yeah, and I think that's the case whenever you're the foreign guy. And all those guys you just mentioned, great fighters, and I think a big reason for that is the chances and risks they took.
Say what you want about Anthony Joshua for all his flaws and all his foibles. Out of all the modern-day heavyweights, he's the one that actually faced everybody across the board. I actually have a lot of admiration for the way Anthony Joshua, as the biggest earner in the sport, he didn't avoid Usyk. Right? I believe that he was willing to come to the table to fight Wilder.
I agree.
And I believe he's not the one that's retired multiple times like Tyson Fury. He's the one that fought in stadiums and elevated the whole business in a continent.
And I think the big reason for that is because he's been willing to take those risks.
Absolutely. And here's one from FJOP1310, looking ahead to Super Bowl Sunday. Eagles or Chiefs?
God, I hope Saquon Barkley runs for like 400 yards. They can do it. It's just, oh man, the Chiefs seem to have some sort of well, aside from the rest,
mystique,
some sort of mystique,
a mystique, a magic.
Yeah, and you know, coaching is going to be a big factor. Andy Reid's been there for a long time. And what's the line right now? Like 1.5.
1.5.
Yeah. So look, that's pretty even. What does your gut tell you?
My gut says, Steve, don't be dumb. It's the Chiefs. You've picked against the Chiefs 50 times. They remind me of the prime of Ric Flair when he's the champion and he'd get beat up for a whole hour. But you kind of knew, like, he's going to win the fight somehow. He's just getting his ass kicked, getting thrown all across, body slam, pile driven, small package, drop kick. But you're like, yeah, just do it. And at the end, whoo, he wins.
Well, I hope
that's the Chiefs.
I hope you're wrong.
So do I. I will say this. For the Eagles to win, I believe Jalen Hurts is going to have to throw for almost 300 yards because the game plan is...
They're going to stack the line?
Yes, so you got to throw on early downs, and you have Devonta Smith, the sprinter, and you have A.J. Brown. You have weapons, and you have Dallas Goedert, who's a very good tight end.
See what he's made of.
That team has real weapons. Jalen Hurts, if you're ever going to play a game to elevate yourself, do it for America. Not just Philly. Do it for America.
They're counting on you.
Yeah. Here's one from Djokovic. Have you guys ordered your number 77 Lakers jerseys yet? Luka Don Kim, baby. Orale.
This took over all the hype for the Super Bowl. Luka, no one saw this coming. And as a Laker fan, I'm ecstatic.
Are you excited? I don't know.
Yeah, dude, it makes you kind of be a Laker fan again. Look, LeBron's 40 now. How many more years has he got? Although he's pretty superhuman. He might be playing another 5, who knows? But, dude, Luka's just 25, took his team to the finals. He's one of the best players in the league. And what's ironic, too, and you were talking about it with your boy Whitlock on the NBA the other day, all the stars are European. Giannis, Luka,
Jokic.
Gilgeous, what's his name?
The guy on Oklahoma City.
Right. And Luka's got that star quality to him too.
You know what the problem is?
Came in with the LA sign. I like. What's the problem?
He needs to get on Ozempic.
He's what?
He's fat.
He's always been doughy. Don't fat shame him. I like that. He needs to be. He's durable that way.
I saw a picture that someone put up.
Him and Jokic were chubby guys.
From AM Hoops. Yeah, but Jokic should stay the same size. Some guy named AM Hoops does a great job on YouTube. Showed a picture of his rookie year when he's at 230. Then he showed a picture of him this year at 270-ish.
Damn, he put on 40?
At least. And it looked like a before and after ad for a diet pill. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. So at 25, I'm thinking, can you really teach a work ethic?
Wow.
See, I saw a tweet that says he's the same age of Michael Jordan in 89 and Kobe Bean Bryant in 2004. I'm thinking, oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Ever see the physique of those guys at that age? They didn't look like that. They didn't look like the Pillsbury Doughboy.
But he has a different game. Here's the thing with AD too, who's obviously a great player. He's 31, but he's got a lot of tread on
He's
those
about
tires.
48 in basketball
exactly,
years.
and he's got a lot of injuries. I don't know what Dallas was thinking. I like this. I think it's huge. I think, look, he's a young guy. He should know better. He doesn't obviously have the workout regimen. Hopefully LeBron rubs off on him in that sense. I think that you don't like this. Kind of makes you want to be
defensively. The Lakers got a lot worse, and keep this in mind. If you're,
but the future looks a lot brighter.
It does, but both guys, as they're going to be teammates, love to dribble and handle the ball. They are ball dominant players. Certain players, as great as they are not meant to be.
It's weird that it happened in the middle of the season, too.
Well, it was stunning. I mean, when that trade was announced by Shams Charania, who's like the NBA insider, first thing I did is I went to the account to make sure it was not a parody or troll. Once I saw 2.5 million followers, because it happened 10 minutes after the fight, I was like, oh, my God. Wow.
You know what this makes me think, and it still makes me mad to this day? When Chris Paul was traded to the Lakers and they kiboshed it.
Yeah.
That pissed me off.
And I didn't understand why, because we were giving up Pau Gasol.
I know.
So
it's so weird. So look, I'm excited. I think it's gonna be great for the team later on.
Final flurries.
Moving on to final flurries. Sticking with boxing just a little bit, I want to pay my respects to a guy that was a colleague of mine about 20 years ago when I was much younger and was kind of a rookie on the beat with Max Boxing, with Doug Fisher, Gary Randall, and Tom Gerbasi. The dean of boxing writers passed away last week, Michael Katz. I can honestly tell you, he was cantankerous, he was a curmudgeon, but he was a brilliant writer. Once you earned his respect, it meant something. He'd give you the funniest compliments. I wrote a story one time about the opponents, the opening opponents for Lou DiBella's Olympians. I went through who they were, what the matchmaker was thinking, and all Katz wrote in his email was good stuff about the cans.
Oh, wow.
And then
he's all heart.
Right, and then other times he'd be screaming at you, yelling at you, and then you'd see him at fights. You'd be pissed off at him by the first bout. By the main event, you're talking to him like he's old friends, and he'd pat you on the back. He was one of a kind, and the funniest story that I ever heard, I read this from one of the tributes. Forgot who wrote it, but it was great. So boxing writers were taken out by Don King for a Mike Tyson fight. They're at an Italian restaurant. It's kind of an open air. They weren't in a booth, but they had a curtain. But some guy across the table, not with the group, was smoking a cigar. And Michael's one of these guys. If he didn't like something, he bitched and moaned about it. And he kept asking, could you put down that cigar? And the guy wouldn't do it. And he kept getting angry and angrier. So finally, in the middle of the dinner, Michael Katz gets up, gets right next to the guy, puts his ass right in his face, and he cuts a loud fart. And he said, if I have to smell your shit, you have to smell mine. Did that right in the middle of dinner. So Mike Tyson fights.
Sounds like somebody you want to kick it with.
So the next day, Mike Tyson wins the fight. And the first thing, before anyone asks a question.
By the way, if I was a guy with a scar, I would have burned his ass.
Yeah, well,
if he would have farted, I would have fucking taken the cigar and burned him right in the arm.
So Mike Tyson, before any questions, I want to ask one thing. Michael Katz, where are you, Mr. Katz? He goes, yeah. And it was like, is it true you farted in someone's face?
Mike was like 5 years old.
But he came from an era when the writers were powerful. They were incredibly influential, and just reading him made you a better writer because he was a very well-read guy. And so hats off to the dean of the boxing.
Rest in peace. You know, I had a very busy weekend. I went to Palm Springs to go see my daughter in this national championships cheerleading. Dude, these competitions are intense.
No, they're serious.
and they're real athletes right here. So she did a great job. Proud of her.
Is it really like Bring It On?
Bring It On? No, they're launching these girls. It's much more athletic.
Yeah,
much more athletic. And then I was where did we go? West Covina for my son's wrestling tournament. He made me proud. Nico, he's doing really well. Beat this kid that had beaten him before, and he'd lost to him a couple times, and it was always 1 point, and Nico beat him like 14-2. So he came back with a new mindset. It's so mental, just like boxing too. And then I went to Manhattan Beach to do the polar plunge with the Dodgers. It wasn't that cold out there, but that was nice to see all the Dodgers. And so I was running around all over the place, man, and managed to check out the fights. But I have a bone to pick with you.
Yeah, what happened?
Why are you watching the O.J. Simpson doc on Netflix? How many more docs do we need about O.J. Simpson? What can you possibly learn that you haven't already heard before? We saw scripted movie. We saw documentaries. We've seen specials.
The 30 for 30, the 5
The 30, yeah, which was excellent. It's like having another Muhammad Ali movie. Like, really,
it is. I know. Well, okay, so yesterday I checked Netflix for the one time I do every month just to see what's new. And I saw it at the top of the bill, and I'm like, okay, was this from 10 years ago? They actually did add some new stuff.
Come on!
They actually talked about a lot of the evidence that was not in the trial. I actually learned a few things. Yeah. What?
How many episodes is it?
It's about 3 or 4. I got through 2, and I fell asleep in 2. So it started on 3. So
you suggest watching it?
Yes.
I've got to back him up, actually, because I started watching. I was against this. You and I talked about it on the radio show last week or whenever it came out. We both were like, no, this is pointless. I saw the trailer thing for it when I opened Netflix, and it pulled me in, and they are showing stuff that I've never heard before.
Give me an example.
About someone who saw a witness that was never called that literally saw him dump a duffel bag or stuff out of a duffel bag at the airport into trash.
One by one. One of them was a long
Some of the stuff that was seen in his house when they went in before they had the search warrants because they were looking to make sure that everything was okay there because there was a blood trail.
Yes.
Why do you think this has never been...
That's a great question.
Because
many of the same panelists they've interviewed before.
Right.
Like I've seen them. But it is interesting about the way they frame the event. Look, every producer and director has their own interpretation of the subject matter. I did actually find this to be pretty useful.
It's definitely intriguing, and it's the perspective that they're telling it from, because they're telling it from the detectives. All the detectives are telling their side, plus they insert all these other things that you never heard about.
Yes, are you curious? You give it the first hour. It's the first episode is about 56 minutes. You can't give 56 minutes for Orenthal
I gotta watch this other one. My wife wants to watch Scamanda.
About
this lady.
That already sounds like a pass.
No, she was this Christian blogger who started faking cancer and getting all this money.
Oh, well, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, she's shady. No, she was shady. She raised all kinds of money, dude. Faking cancer.
Is that on Netflix?
I believe it's Hulu.
Okay, I'll try to.
ABC. No, but Hulu too. Yeah, so it's supposed to be. It's like faking cancer, bro. That's the lowest.
And then using religion as the crutch.
Yes,
oh my God,
you're really low right there. She got pinched though. She got pinched. So I told my wife we'd watch that one. Then after that, I might. She's honestly gonna hit me with really. We've seen like 4 in the movie.
Look, I felt the same way. But when you texted me last night, I'm like, wow, Mario. Never seen Mario so disappointed in me.
I'm so disappointed.
Mario, last week we couldn't get into it, but I was reminded over Twitter, and I put a tweet about it. January 29th, 1994, last week, it was the 31st anniversary of Chavez Randall 1. Was that your worst day as a boxing fan growing up?
Well, it made me sad. I remember I was watching it at my parents' guest house, and my buddy was there, and my dad and Juancho, we just were like, oh. It was just...
Like a family member died.
It was, because he got dropped. He didn't get knocked out, but you just never saw him touch the canvas. And it was sad.
Do you know that was the first fight at MGM Grand? I didn't know that because people were telling me.
Yeah.
Here's the interesting part.
Granted, how many fights did he have at that time?
89-0-1.
Yeah, come on. Guy almost had 100 fights. Like,
you want to talk about
breaking his balls.
Seasoning? He was 89-0-1. Randall was only 48-2-1. And so the funny thing is that's the first event at MGM Grand. It was the night before the rematch between the Bills and Cowboys in Atlanta. It was Jimmy Johnson's last game as the Cowboys coach. I was at a fight party with people I had known pretty well. We'd watched other fights before. There's probably like 15 to 20, mostly Mexicans. And there was this nervous feeling about the 7th round. You're like, "Ooh, this is not a 16-1 fight."
That short right hand.
And then going down the stretch, we're all like kind of nervous. I can still hear the audible shrieks in the gas when that short little right.
Yeah.
And Chavez was not really hurt, but because he said I was more pissed off than anything.
Yeah, exactly. He was flat-footed, and he
just got dumped.
Yeah, and both of his feet were parallel like this, so he wasn't in his fighting stance too, and he just got.
And
caught.
Randall just released it. It's not like
I
he
know.
loaded up.
No,
and
I know.
And when they said and knew, and here's how much the business has changed. That fight was in January 29th. They set up the rematch, which ended up being the headliner, Revenge of the Rematches, first week of May. Think about what a quick turnaround was, and I watched
the way it should be.
And I watched that fight last night. What a hell of a fight!
I know.
And this is where seasoning came through, where Morell didn't have it. There were points in the middle rounds where Chavez looked like he was taking over. Those heavy body shots, two-fisted combinations. But Randall decided, you know what? I'm going to sit in the pocket. I'm going to have to battle this guy and get through it. In the 8th round, he shelled Chavez pretty good. That's where I'm like, wow, he really kind of got his pound of flesh there. And what was funny was Chavez was so pissed off at Richard Steele because of the low blows. And he's, F you! And I'm like, oh, now you like Richard Steele. Now you hate the guy. Now you hate Richard Steele. But that was a moment I don't think I'll ever forget. Everyone knows where they were when that happened.
Yeah.
What a fight. But by the way, Chavez that year, 4 fights.
Of course.
That's amazing.
Almost getting into his 90th fight. No, exactly. So, hey, what's up with the rumor? Crawford, Canelo, official or what?
Everybody is reporting that it's a done deal. We've been hearing for about 3 weeks it's headed there. The way I'd put it like this. It crossed midfield. Then we got the field goal range. Then we got to the red zone. I think we're now on the 1-inch line. I think it's going to cross the goal line.
Okay, so by next show, hopefully we'll be officially announcing
Yeah, we need to bring on Tim Bradley more often. Our Instagram reel with Tim, boy, that's gone viral. Tim's pissed off a lot of people. My God.
I think I may have won that.
Well, remember, you're a big Terrence Crawford fan, though. You're a big Terrence.
I preface all my statement with that. I do, because I don't want to think. But I am.
Yeah.
That's why I don't want to think anybody.
Yeah, and we're going to try to bring Terrence Crawford on before that fight. All right, well, that's it for this week's edition of the 3 Knockdown Rule, brought to you by Hustler Casino. On behalf of Mario Lopez, Smoking Tim Frazier, and Tino on the edit. Till next week, goodbye, everybody.